I could feel very high.
It's a new day on the Enterprise and a pair of lower deckers are having lunch. One is trying Vulcan soup while the other mocks her, but both are distracted by the unexpected appearance of a planet in the window as the mocker thought we were going to visit some space fog. It's not a surprise up on the bridge, so at least we're not so incompetent that we can get ambushed by planets. Scans suggest no humanoid life, and there's no indication the planet is owned by another species, so Archer wants to give it a poke. T'Pol suggests probes first, which sounds proper boring to Archer, so he's just ignoring it. Instead, we're going down with the survey team, and Soupy's along for the ride. In fact, it looks like we're making it quite the group outing, as even Porthos, dog in space, is being given the chance to piss on an alien tree. That, coupled with Tucker wanting to take photos, gives it more of a holiday feeling than a science survey, and T'Pol is not impressed. Off everybody goes to perform their assigned jobs afterwards, or just cock about in the case of Archer. Being the captain has its perks. We reconvene later on, and T'Pol's had a change of heart. Whilst she was originally against an away team, the discovery of some nocturnal wildlife has made her decide it'll be worth staying overnight with Soupy and the Mocker, our lower deck crew. Tucker wants to camp out as well, and ropes Travis into it. To be fair, there's not much for the driver to do when the Enterprise is parked. A camp-out means various activities, such as the traditional ghost story, which kinda pisses on T'Pol's study of nocturnal wildlife, but let's ignore that for now. What we can't ignore is the Mocker getting a headache and going to rest, or the onset of some rather inclement weather. We take shelter in our thin, lightweight fabric houses to protect ourselves from the gale force winds, because we're Starfleet and nobody taught us self-preservation. Even worse, the Mocker tells Soupy he hears something outside, and even worse again, Tucker finds a space scorpion in his sleeping bag, and even more worse than that, yet again, the combination of winds and faffing about causes the tent of Tucker and Travis to pull loose and flap about a bit. Basically, the whole thing is a complete bloody shambles. Just as well, then, that T'Pol noted a cave during her survey earlier and mentioned it, so Tucker suggests we all bugger off there for the night. With a bit of luck, it won't be where the Space Scorpion's mates live. Archer, who's had the good sense to go back to the ship where he's got a proper bed, is being told about the incoming storm by Reed. We give the survey team a call to offer a pickup, but T'Pol declines as landing conditions for a shuttle are bloody awful. Besides, they're in the nice safe cave now. You know what isn't in the cave? Their food, because nobody grabbed it. While the Mocker shines his torch into shadow and suspenseful music plays to let us know it's important, Travis goes back to the campsite for the food. He manages to grab a single pack, the rest presumably having blown away. He also sees some figures in the distance, but they're gone when he shines his torch. He reports this back in the cave and confirms it wasn't any of them. T'Pol scans and says there's no other humanoid life here. Travis isn't convinced, and neither is the Mocker, who believes he just heard people further into the cave and thinks we should scarp her. Trying to calm him fails, and he legs it from the cave, so Tucker and Travis grab pistols and go after him. T'Pol gets one herself and goes to explore the back of the cave. Outside, Tucker sees a figure in a rock. It's gone by the time Travis arrives, but being made of rock would explain why they're not detectable. Some more searching for the Mocker nearly leads us over a cliff, so we say bollocks to him and go back to the cave. Speaking of which, Soupy, who's grabbed her own gun now, decides to follow T'Pol after hearing voices and sees her talking to some people. They leave, and Soupy goes to ask T'Pol who they were, only to be told there was nobody here. Tucker calls the Enterprise to let them know that pickup would be appreciated now, as we're not alone and one of the team has legged it. Back to the cave we go, where he shares what he saw with T'Pol, though she's skeptical based on her scans of the rocks. That's because she's in on it, says Soupy, and tells Tucker and Travis that she saw T'Pol talking to the aliens. Not to worry, as backups here, Archer and Reed have arrived in the shuttle and are in contact with the Mocker. They tell him to go back to the cave while they try to land, and he tells them to bollocks. They also call Tucker to let the rest of the survey team know they're being rescued, which is good news as they're currently turning on T'Pol. The good news turns bad when the shuttle has a bit of an oopsie and twats a rock, the result being an aborted landing and buggering off back to the Enterprise. The survey team will have to make do until things calm down, says Archer, and maybe try to learn more about those aliens if possible as well. Perhaps the bad news is why an increasingly erratic Tucker takes that as an order to start interrogating T'Pol, and when she denies meeting anyone, points his weapon and disarms her. Even Archer can see that getting a crew member killed in the first couple of months exploring would look bad for him, so we're going to try teleporting the mocker back aboard. That way, even if it kills him, Archer's covered his arse, and we can call it science or some bollocks. The attempt is 110% successful, with the extra 10% being the twigs and shit that are now sticking out of his body. Things aren't much better back in the cave. Tucker's gone off the deep end and is saying T'Pol's part of a conspiracy to keep we humans in our place. He outlines an elaborate plan to get us all killed, one that Travis is starting to buy as well. Tucker starts shouting for the rock aliens to show themselves, and when Travis says he sees one, poops a bit of red at the ceiling. Back up on the Enterprise, Phlox has pulled all of that shit out of the mocker. He's also discovered the guy was off his tits on a hallucinogen commonly found in plants. Bad news for the rest of the survey team, so Archer gives them a call. T'Pol answers and explains that she's currently got a gun pointed at her. Archer tries to explain to Tucker that they're all infected with hallucinogenic plant jizz and will be fine in a few hours now that they're in a cave. This goes down about as well as you'd expect, so when reason doesn't work, he orders Tucker to lower the gun, and that gets a response. With things a little calmer, T'Pol tells Archer that she's affected too, but only slightly, and Archer wishes them all luck before hanging up on them. It's a little later on when Tucker starts going batshit again. Travis is completely out of it by this point, which at least means he won't be a threat, and T'Pol started talking in Vulcan. He doesn't much care for that last bit and poops red at the wall next to her. Then he starts having a conversation with a rock who he's referring to as Velik, during which T'Pol manages to nab her weapon back and they play a bit of the old pointing guns in faces game. Up on the Enterprise, we're waiting for the storm to pass so we can have another go at the rescue attempt, or not, as Phlox calls Archer to sickbay and tells him the mind-bending plant jizz has also poisoned his patient. It's touch and go whether the mocker will survive, and that adds another wrinkle to our survey team as well. It's not entirely without benefit, as it means both Travis and Soupy are now incapacitated. A call from Archer lets T'Pol tell him shit's gone south with Tucker again. Archer tries to explain the poison business and that they need to take the drugs we're going to teleport down, but Tucker's too far gone to listen. He's now entirely convinced this is a conspiracy with T'Pol, and T'Pol telling Hoshi in Vulcan that Tucker is going to shoot her doesn't help his frame of mind. Archer saying it's a side effect of the mind-bending plant jizz calms him down only a little. Archer has another go at getting through to him with a reminder of saving his life before, but it doesn't work because Tucker's now fully hallucinating. With nothing else to lose, Archer instead goes 100% bullshit mode and confesses there are indeed rock people in the cave that he wasn't allowed to talk about because it's all highly classified. As Reed teleports down the meds, Archer's telling Tucker this is a first contact situation and T'Pol was the contact because they know about Vulcans. Obviously, these rock lads aren't best chuffed about us being in their caves due to the storm. The only person who can calm them down is T'Pol, which is why Tucker needs to lower his weapon. He also needs to let Hoshi talk to T'Pol in Vulcan to let her know what's happening. Hoshi has a quick chat and tells Archer that T'Pol's on board with the fiction and will try to sell it as well as she can. T'Pol pantomimes talking to the rocks, and Archer tells Tucker they've agreed to chat if he lowers his weapon. Tucker does so, and T'Pol poops red at his stunt double. Travis tries putting up a fight when she starts injecting people with the meds, only for her to give him a Vulcan neck massage and send him straight back to sleep. It's morning in the cave, and a now clear-headed Tucker is a wee bit sheepish about things. T'Pol confirms the rock aliens don't exist, and never did. She also cuts him off in the process of making an apology, and chalks the whole thing up to freaky alien plant jizz doing his nut in, which is pretty reasonable under the circumstances. Maybe she's feeling generous after shooting him. Oh, and the mocker is going to survive too, so that's nice, I guess. We're all up and about by the time Soupy sees the shuttle land, so we'll leave them to pack up and climb aboard as we get ready to take another step on the long road. And so ends the story of Archer ignoring the advice of the most experienced person in the room and nearly getting several of his crew killed as a result. Make no mistakes, kids, this whole thing happens because Archer is bloody incompetent. All he had to do was wait a week until probes confirmed the planet wasn't home to, a brain-twisting version of hay fever, for example. But that would be a week not spent bollocksing up a different planet, which is clearly too much to ask. Here's hoping he brought plenty of humble pie with him on that rescue shuttle. To be fair to him, it's only around 90% his fault. T'Pol's the one who wanted to stay the night despite her initial urging of caution, so some of this is down to her. That's assuming the alien plant jizz wasn't affecting her judgment by this point, of course, in which case it's back up to 100% for Archer again. Stepping back a little to look at what we get, the point of the plot seems twofold. It serves as an example of how our reckless abandon can drop us in the shit, regardless of how safe we consider a situation. The galaxy at large is not a place where we can assume things, and even an idyllic planet holds plenty of surprises. In short, a willingness to explore is simply not sufficient. If we humans are going to prove we can stand on our own 2 feet, then paradoxically we need to learn when we shouldn't. T'Pol's advice here could have prevented the whole problem, and trying to show that we didn't need it did exactly the opposite. And that ties into our other point. Despite the actions of T'Pol to date, despite proving that she'll give the crew a chance to show what they can do, there's still derision and distrust from us. How much of that is pushing back against Vulcan condescension, either real or perceived, is another matter. Whatever the reason, a month or so of exploring hasn't yet brought them together in a mutually productive way. For the sake of balance, it's fair to assume this isn't all on the heads of the humans aboard. T'Pol shows herself in this one to be dismissive of anything that doesn't pertain to the task at hand. Soupy trying to find a topic upon which to bond, a culinary olive branch if you like, is just flat out ignored. It's likely not an isolated incident either if Tucker's little snipe afterwards is an indicator. If we're generous, we could put T'Pol's behaviour down to how she's been treated elsewhere. Archer's a condescending dick to her in this one, for example, and one of her first experiences on the ship was them mocking her vegetarianism. But then expecting her to be pissy to everybody else as a result is an emotional response and thus beneath her, so by her own measure of judgment it wouldn't excuse her aloof ignorance of Soupy. All of which paints a picture that's not exactly harmonious. All's well that ends well, and Tucker tries to reconcile matters when he's back in his right mind, but it's still indicative of a problem under the surface. I guess 100 years of growing resentment doesn't just vanish overnight. Speaking of which, there's a bit in this episode that paints a slightly different picture. We're talking about a certain Mr. Velik that Tucker mentions towards the end when talking about biology class. There's some ambiguity over this being a single visit or something more regular, but one line implies the latter. Tucker tells us that's something Mr. Velik used to say, as opposed to that's something Mr. Velik said. It's a small difference, I'll grant you, but one that suggests a level of repetition and familiarity. Whether it was once or many times, or even a permanent position, it tells us something for sure. Vulcans are part of Earth's education system and have been for at least a few decades. On the surface, that might seem a touch at odds with things not being entirely smooth between our two species, but it's possible those in power may see it as another example of the Vulcans trying to influence us. Strangers coming to talk to kids can conjure up all kinds of fear responses regardless of the intent. At best, it's a situation that could be interpreted in a number of ways. Let's end this one with a couple of observations. For starters, let's hand out the first batch of points for Enterprise. We've been generally complimentary to date, but the makeup team have earned a little extra on this one. The Mocker's wounds after he's been patched up by Phlox do a decent job of matching the positions of larger debris in his skin before the treatment. It's a little detail that most people would never have even checked, so my compliments to whoever decided they wanted it to be right. The last bit for today is more of a puzzler with the word Minshara. We learn in this episode that Minshara class is the terminology Vulcans use to describe planets that can support humanoid life. Starfleet will later come to call them M-class planets, with the implication being it's directly linked. Memory Alpha is certainly of that opinion. Except the episode itself throws us a problem. Soupy's reading a book at the start of the show, and it uses the term Class M in the text. I suppose we can headcanon our way out of that by saying the book was written by Vulcans. Shortening a word doesn't sound very Vulcan to me, but they could be making concessions to we mere humans. The likely real reason, of course, is that the Art or Properties Department wasn't made aware that M-Class isn't a thing yet, and that raises a far more interesting wrinkle with Enterprise as a whole. Paramount had built up a lot of talent and experience with Trek by this point, and that might ironically be a source of problems for a prequel show. Small details that have been set in stone for multiple series are now up in the air, and just as I suspect we've seen here, that can lead to unanticipated conflicts. I wonder how many other examples there are of certain departments accidentally showing 24th century knowledge in a 22nd century show. End of episode.
Are we really going to repeat a story so early on? You know, with the computer not having voice commands. We did that on Deep Space Nine when we emulated Windows 95.
Don't worry, I've sorted it. I got one of the lower deckers to hook us up.
Oh, that were nice of him. Maybe the people here will be a bit more friendly than we used to.
Actually, he thought I was some sort of rock monster, and said he'd do anything I want if I didn't kill him. I'm pretty sure he was off his tits on something.
Close enough. So computer access won't be an ongoing problem then?
Nope. Through means we don't need to go into at this particular point. It's totally covered.
Yeah, that doesn't sound dodgy at all.
Right then, what's the plan for these ones?
You mean the new overarching storyline that we've apparently taken to having for our credit skits?
That's the lad, yeah.
I haven't got a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, just as well. 2 cartoon dogs are enough for one show. Hold on a minute, that's what's been bothering me.
Competition from other cartoon dogs?
No, the smell since we got here. There's been something in background that I couldn't put me paw on. That's what it is. I reckon there's another dog on board.